Hi, this is Todd Baker, your certified mortgage planner with Service First Mortgage, and I'm here today with Dustin Paine of Farmers Insurance Group. Dustin is the #2 producing insurance agent in the state of Texas. He's my preferred agent, and he's who I introduce all of my clients to because of the incredible service he provides. When you're buying a house, one of the third-party service providers that we have to have is insurance. You're going to have to pay for insurance for a whole year up front, so the property's insured, and then after that, you're going to have it as an ongoing cost. The thing I see though is there's a big difference in what you get quoted as far as the annual cost and what's actually insured. So we're going to have a few questions with Dustin today. He's going to fill us in on what to look for, what's the best practice, and what really matters when you're doing your homeowner's insurance. So let's start, Dustin, with what is homeowner's insurance?
There's a lot of different kinds of homeowner insurance, but simply it is a policy that's going to cover your house, it's going to cover your belongings, it's going to cover the property and the liability that you have for that property that you're buying, whether it be a single-family residence or with just one property on it or one building on it, or whether it's a farm and ranch type of property that's got multiple barns and multiple buildings on it. So it takes care of your things, it takes care of your property that you have, and also takes care of the liability issues that you may have.
And what would you say is basic coverage, and what would you say is required coverage? So, for example, I know that in many cases you've been able to give foundation coverage, right, as a standard policy where others may not. And in Texas, that's a big deal to have that. That you guys have, you look in more detail about what's actually insured for possible hazards and events that can happen here in Texas are more prevalent. They're more likely to occur, therefore need to be considered. So give us an example of some of those.
You bet, you bet. So I always tell the client when I'm explaining coverage to them that the numbers, the limits on the policy on the declaration page, or the actual cover of the insurance policy, those limits, those numbers don't matter if it doesn't cover anything. So what good is having a house insured for $400,000 if it doesn't cover fire and wind and hail? So what the most important parts of the policy are the coverages inside of that. So when I sit down with a client and we go over it, we may look at it and we may go, hey, both of these policies, my policy and XYZ company policy over here, they both cover the same number. They both cover the house for $400K. They both cover the personal property for $200,000. But what are those actual coverages inside the policy? That's really what matters. So we try to walk them through, and then we say, yes, this may be a little bit cheaper of a policy, but you're losing water coverage, or you're losing a hot water heater breaking coverage, or you're losing a slab leak coverage. You're right, in Texas, that's a big deal. We have two types of houses in Texas, ones that have foundation issues and ones that will have foundation issues, just the way it goes. So are you going to be the homeowner when that pipe breaks in the slab? That could be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of a claim to you, and at that point, those numbers don't matter on that page because most policies don't cover that. So it really matters on what the coverage is inside of the policy, actual cover, not the numbers themselves.
Well, and thank you. And what I see is that most of my clients, what they do is actually, anymore, I send them all to you, but what they're naturally inclined to do, I guess is a better way to put it, is to go out and sort of shop around, and typically on the internet, and they'll get 3 or 4 quotes, and all they're looking at is just the premium and the resulting monthly payment.
Sure.
And why is that a mistake?
Insurance, as in lending as well, has been commoditized. It's not a service anymore. So they go out, and I encourage my clients to go out and get 3 or 4 quotes. And go out and look, go out and see what's out there. Where most other agents or most other companies fail to give the services, they just give that quote. They just say, okay, this is the address, this is how much it's going to cost for the insurance. But they don't explain the coverages inside of it. They don't explain how the policy works and what's actually inside of the policy. So when those clients come back to me and they say, hey, I got 15 other quotes, or I got 5 other quotes, is more likely not 15. But I've got these 5 other quotes, we pull them all out and we put them all next to each other. And then I pull up, there's a website you can go to, that's officeofpublicinsurancecouncil.com. And you can put Allstate and State Farm and Farmers and Travelers and compare all the policies and everything that's inside of it. So we'll pull all these coverages, and then I'll pull that up on the computer, and we'll go down, this policy covers this, but it doesn't cover this. This policy covers this, but it doesn't cover this. And if there's a policy that's a good deal for them, or that it's cheaper than ours, and they can go add a couple things to make it a good policy, I'll tell them, hey, go that route, that's fine. Because if it's a better deal for them, then that's really what we're supposed to do anyway. But most clients don't take the time, or most agents don't take the time to actually go through the policies.
Exactly. It's just the bottom line, and then later on, tell us some stories. Just give us a few stories of things you've seen happen. I'll throw one out there, which is we had a client, you and I, where it was with an Allstate quote actually. It was $300 higher annually, and I actually encouraged her to give you a call just to compare the policies. And when we did, we found out two things. Number one, it had no foundation coverage, which is a huge deal. Imagine no foundation coverage for only $300 extra a year. And on that policy, the water damage coverage, if you remember that one, it was limited to like 10,000, and yours was unlimited or something like that. So if there was a pipe burst in the house, they were fully covered in your policy, and they weren't in the other for an incremental charge of less than $30 a month.
Right.
And so, are there other examples where you see people underinsured? And just so the folks out there can understand, tell us a couple horror stories of being underinsured and what can happen.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind, we had a client that she was with us for a couple of years, and then she left and went to another company because of premium. We always try to get our clients when they leave to, hey, shoot me over your coverages, your new policy that you're getting quoted. Let me look over it for you and make sure that that's something that you want to go with. Let me just, you've trusted me with your insurance in the past. Let me go ahead and look over it for you. She didn't send that over to us. The company that she went with and the agent had given her a 3% wind and hail deductible. So her house was a $500,000 home. She had a $15,000 wind and hail deductible. Well, last April happened with the storm that came through last April. She needed a new roof. So she goes out, she gets adjusted, she gives me a call and she goes, hey, how much was I going to pay out of pocket with your policy? So I looked at it and I, blah, 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 whatever, you were going to pay $5,000. She's like, well, why is the adjuster telling me that they're only going to give me a $5,000 check? Like, well, what was the total claim? Total claim was 22 grand. Well, what's your deductible? Well, I don't know. So she sent me over the policy and I said, well, your hail deductible is 15 grand. So you're basically self-insuring your own roof. So at that point, yes, the premium's lower because she's taking the risk herself.
Well,
and that's a couple things that's the most prevalent thing that we see a lot of the times.
And that's a great example. And I want to point out to everybody that two things. I'm going to have Dustin sort of go down a quick itemization before we wrap this up, but also in regards to deductibles. As lenders, we require, we want a maximum deductible of 1% service first. We'll allow 2% if you have some reserves. And the reason being is we don't want to put your property at risk, particularly while we're your partner as your mortgage company, in having a situation where now there's a roof damage, maybe leaking, maybe damaging the collateral of the property, right? And yet there's not coverage for it because you didn't have that gap financing, meaning a $15,000 deductible, you might have been able to take the $5,000 hit, but you don't have or can't take the $15,000 hit. So it's real important. So to wrap up, could you tell the folks, like when they're looking at a declaration page, obviously I'm going to have to send them over to you, but if they're going to look on their own, I encourage them, as you do too, to read and understand this. This is why we're starting to do these videos and this education. What do they need to look at a deck page? What's important to look for in a policy and a deck page?
So usually on a declarations page, it's not going to go into depth on the coverages that are inside of it. So honestly, what you need to do as a consumer, what you probably should do is you should take your policy, take your deck page or your declarations page, and that's what has the you'll see it listed as dwelling limit, separate structures, personal property. That's all the coverages inside of the policy and the limits inside the policy. So you need to look at all those and figure out what those coverages are. And then on the very bottom of that, it'll show deductibles. And it'll be windstorm. In Texas, we have 2 or 3 different types of categories of deductibles. Windstorm and then all other. Farmers has 3 because we're right on the coast, and hurricanes are a separate deal. So if you're with farmers, you have 3 deductibles. But look at that, and then go to that OPIC, that is opic.com, and look up your policy. Look up what your coverages are. It'll have your form numbers on your declarations page, and look that up and see what you're actually covered for. What's excluded, what's not excluded. You'll see on that page where you can go in and compare. It's really user friendly, and you can go in and you can put your policy in there and you can say what's covered, what's not covered, and it's going to tell you anything that can happen to you in Texas, what's covered and what's not covered.
Well, that's awesome. And then a couple other things I know for farmers right now, new construction, you guys like new construction, so you can have real competitive rates. The other thing is too is that what I've seen is Dustin's quotes are very, very competitive, even with the so-called discount insurance companies. So it's important to note that not only get the value out of the education and the greater insurance, but you're actually going to get it at a very reasonable price. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I always like to throw out there, one reason as clients, you get a chance to meet Dustin. He's on this video. You'll eventually get to meet him in person. Dustin and his team. Dustin's the kind of guy he'll come to your house if there's a problem. He'll be there if there is ever a claim. I know most insurance agents I know. Once you write the policy, if there's ever an issue, you never speak to them again the rest of your life, except to write them an annual check. That's not how these guys are. They take great care of you. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Probably, I would assume that's it.
All right, well, great. Well, you guys all have a great day, and thanks for watching.